first question that came in today is I've got about 60% of my revenue coming in from just two clients, and it's keeping me up at night. Everyone's telling me to diversify my client base, but when I'm prospecting for new business, I'm ending up neglecting my top clients. How do you go about building a sales system that's consistently bringing in new business without sacrificing on those clients that are actively paying the bills?
Well, I big, so let me seek clarity here. Is he saying, so she has a couple big clients, right?
Mhm.
And by prospecting for more clients, you are feel like you're not paying the right sort of attention to your existing big clients. Is that
Correct.
right? You know,
Correct.
I guess I don't know all the details, right? I'd ask some questions like, well, how big are these? Are they, and how much time do they take? And it, a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is that it can be dangerous just to have a couple, like one big account. Chuck and I are working with a guy right now who has a monstrous account. Most of his business the last few years has come from that account, constantly, Chuck and I have been saying that's good, but it's
Mhm.
dangerous because if that one goes away, and they're going away, they just got bought by a venture capital outfit, and they're going away, and he is stressing, and it's been he's had them for,
A
I don't know,
decade?
something like, yeah, at least. So when he got that, and we started seeing business come from it, we're going, okay, okay, build around it, because I always imagine it like a brick wall, and if you've got one big, or like a wall, and if you've got one big stone, uh, okay, that's good, but you need to put a lot of others around it. So when that big one falls apart, it crumbles, it rolls away. You still have a good semblance of a wall. Uh, I remember years ago too, we landed one of the biggest accounts in this sort of category, and we made we brought in like 50 grand a month or something like that.
Mhm.
The problem was you do neglect everything else, because this particular account, I shouldn't say you do, this particular account took a lot of hand holding, and and I was busy dealing with it for the 3 months that we had it. That was
Mhm.
my only job. And
Mhm.
everything else sort of went by the wayside. Thankfully, we had other people adding accounts, and that, but nonetheless, I dealt with it a lot. And I wasn't particularly excited about that, because I knew if it went away, it was a high risk sort of business, and it did go away. And then we were we'd made enough to buy a nice European car. But in the meantime, what could we have built something? We could have gained momentum in other areas. So anyway, so I guess it depends how you're servicing this account too. One of the things that I like to do, and both Chuck and I recommend to people on our sales team, is that we have support people. Uh, we like, if I sell something and I'm having a great relationship and rapport, and they say yes, one of the things I always say, one of the things I always say at the end is, hey, if you have any questions about anything that's going on, you can always call me, but I won't necessarily always have the answers at hand. We have a team of people who are really good. They have everything that you're probably ever going to ask for right at their fingertips. So here's their phone number, here's their name. So if anything happens, you have any questions, call them. Uh, and if you don't get everything that you think that you should, always call me. But they're really you can always call me, and we can chat about whatever. But if you need help in these areas, call these people, because they can help you best. And one of the ways I set that up too, I go, and when you want help, you probably want answers right away, right? Yes. Right. So there we have these people. And so so now they know that, don't call me, call somebody on my
Mhm.
team that can help you out if you really need me. You've got my cell phone number. Just give me a jingle, and I'll be there to figure everything out and help as far as you need. Um, So I would say, I would also say, well, what are you trying to achieve? And are you wanting to grow? And obviously, it sounds like they want to grow, but they're spending so much time. We see that, don't we, Chuck? And so many
Mhm.
salespeople. You know, most people want to most people in sales want to do customer service too, and and though it sounds like the right thing to do, then it takes them away from sales. And so, but it's in the setup, right? It's in the setup at
Mhm.
the end. Hey, when now call these people. I'm always here if you need. And then it doesn't feel like you're abandoning them. Or if they do
Mhm.
really need something, it can't track you down. Uh, oh, he just sold me, and then he jets.
Yeah.
That's no good. So you want a nice warm handoff to somebody that that you trust, that they're going to handle your business with this client properly, so it frees you up to go get more business. That's how I would look at it. Chuck, you have any
You know, I think because he's kind of made his bed right now, right? So he's got these two
yeah,
clients, or he, she, whomever. I think you just, depending on the scope of the business and what it means to quote unquote support this client, you got to start delegating. I think I would reach out to the client, keep my rapport a cooking, go, hey, I just brought on somebody to help me out. I want to make sure you get top shelf service that I've hopefully you've been getting, I continue to give you, or I want them to make sure they feel that way, right? Like, ah, man, I've gotten top notch service. I'm bringing this person on to help me, to free me up, because it is hard to, like, it sounds like, it's kind of a smaller deal. It's him, right? And he's servicing these clients. It's hard to hire a salesperson to go out and get new clients for you. I would say bring in the support behind you first and stick with what you do best. And that's probably go out and get the business. And then this person will mature along, hopefully behind you. And you'll find that eventually this client that you were so worried about, one of your biggest clients, naturally just all of a sudden starts dealing with the other person and they don't think
yeah,
anything of it. But
right,
but I think what John said, which is spot on, is it's all in the setup. So since he didn't do that initially, he's got to make that call now and bring someone in. And when we started, we sat literally back to, I mean, we could lean back in our chairs and touch heads. I mean, that was 30 years ago. And that's how we learned and got really good at what we were doing. And we both understand the scope of the deal. And that's how you grow. I think you find the right person and make that phone call and start handing stuff off so you can free yourself up to, and then when I hand it off, I'd go, oh, by the way, do you know anyone else who would appreciate a relationship like the one we have? Ask for a referral,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Probably not the time to ask for a referral, but
No, I'm kidding. But
yeah, I know you are.
right,
And
right.
somebody's
Yeah, that's
going,
true.
"What? You ask for a referral
No,
then?"
no, not now.
That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, not now. Not now.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
yeah. Yeah, it's just transition. Find a good person, hand it off.
yeah.
It's a nice warm handoff. You say the same thing you would have at the end of the sale,
Yeah.
if you already had that person. It's easy and fun to do.
And you say you can call me if you don't get the end, like John
Right, you
said.
say all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you say all that stuff. Just set it up. And it's so much, what I think as a business owner, I appreciate phone calls like that instead of just
yeah,
all of a sudden, like, things aren't what I expect. Because when things
right.
aren't what I expect, then I worry. I go, well, wait a minute, what's going on? But I would
Yeah.
appreciate that phone call, and I would respect and continue building my relationship with whomever this vendor person was, I think.
Yeah, surprises like that. So good surprises are good.
Yeah,
Every other surprise isn't so good. Yeah. Yeah, and I if somebody that I appreciate called me and said, "Hey, here's I go, "Well, that makes sense." I mean,
yeah,
really, that makes sense. You know, it's, it depends on what you're selling and what you're
right,
servicing.
right.
I've been handed off way too many times to people who are like, "Really?
Mhm.
You did this to me?" Uh, uh, like
But
a
it
there's
can't be
so much.
100% handoff. I mean, you can't go. I mean, I wouldn't. I would go, and I don't know. Like again, we don't know the industry type
Right.
here,
I don't know what they're doing.
but uh, start this person out handling some of the stuff, right? And then as they grow, I wouldn't just go, "Yep, I trained them," and hand it off. It's like, no, 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 no. You need to. We're going to deal with this together. This person's going to help me because I want to make sure that you get the top notch service, whatever, whatever. So they expect that, and then you wean it. You wean it. That's not a clean cut. Clean cuts like that never work for me anyway. Anytime we've been handed off to different business bankers and our business accounts, and it's like you get used to one thing, and then all of a sudden this new person comes in that doesn't even remotely close to operate the same way, and it's like, and they don't understand all the little nuances of all the things that go on. So yeah, I have to re-explain everything. Then frustration sets in, and then I don't like you as
Yeah.
much. So
Yeah.
do it right, wean it in,
Yeah.
wean it in, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
No, you
I think
didn't.
that's
You,
how I'd
you,
play it.
you took the baton and did it well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, next question here that came in is I've been working in manufacturing sales for the selling to manufacturers for the last number of years, and I am in the process of transitioning to a B2B sales company also selling to manufacturers. As a result, I have a network that I believe I can use here. How would you recommend priming that network or transitioning that network so it doesn't feel like this is out of left field?
I
Well,
guess go ahead.
it, yeah.
I mean, out of left field. I mean, anything's out of left field when you call, unless you've been saying to them, "Look, I'm looking to make a change." Right?
Yeah.
You can't
Right.
go, "Hey, I'm looking to make a change," and then tomorrow I made the change. That's out of left
Yeah.
field. I mean, this groundwork should probably have been laid all along as you've decided to make changes. I love that this person's wanting to take the network they currently have, and they're going, okay, they understand that. See, they understand things that most salespeople don't understand, because when they leave one industry or one job and go to another, they like abandon all these connections that they have. I've seen it. How many times we've seen that, John? It's like, well, what'd you
Um,
do before this? Oh, I did this, 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 and this. And it's like, well, where are those connections? Like, I never kept in contact with them, so I don't have them
yeah.
anymore. You
Well,
know?
that's one of the things we talked about is, imagine, just for fun, imagine if you'd kept in contact with everybody you've ever
Right.
met and all of time,
Mhm.
all your personal and business contacts, how easy whatever transition you were making would be. Shifting industry, whatever the case is, people don't. They 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 just don't. But if they did, imagine how easy things could be. If you want to stay in the same industry and shift, you have all that network. You have to be mindful of non-compete agreements and that kind of thing. But I would recommend in all things. I know this is kind of a different point. It is a different point, but to in your CRM, keep in contact with everybody. Drip on them once a month. Is just something. Hey, here's something I saw recently. Yeah, you're not trying to sell them anything. You're just keeping in contact.
Mhm.
And how many tens of thousands of contacts would you have in there right now? And
Right.
you could find anything you ever wanted. You could start anything you ever wanted. You could shift. You could, people don't, but man, if they did, they'd make their lives a whole lot easier.
Mhm. And I think with
Yeah.
something like that, you call your A contacts and go, "Hey, I'm making a change," because those are the
Yeah.
closer contacts. Then you create a piece that you send out. Hopefully, you get on this process of sending something out on some sort of structured, like once a month. That's what we do, and we found that to be really effective. So I would, in that once a month correspondence with all my people, I would be starting to drop like, hey, making a change, really looking forward to still working with you or whatever, these questions can be difficult because you don't know the industry, but I don't think
Yeah.
this probably really matters. But he said he's still selling. I don't know, is the first one not B2B and this one is B2B, but it's the same sales stuff? I don't
They're
know,
selling
but
to manufacturers, but it's not
yeah,
B2B. That doesn't make any sense.
it
But
does,
but
right.
but anyway, it does, whatever. Doesn't matter. You're
Yeah.
switching. So the question is how to let people know, right? uh, is the question, right, Ian? How to let
Hmm.
people know
Correct.
you're doing something new now, and you're doing something new. You're probably moving away from. So you're letting people know, your clients, basically. I would imagine your manufacturing clients. Hey, I'm changing. I'm moving to something else. So we have, like Chuck had mentioned. I don't know if this question or the last one, but um, recently we had the business banker we've had for 15 years retire,
Hmm.
and knew everything about us, knows where we lived, knows what we like, comes over to the office, and not anymore. He's retired, and hey, and he let us know, hey, in a month from now, I'm gone,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. We
and
knew it was coming.
and yeah, and of course those things. It's a change for us because we used to be able to just, I mean, he knows everything about us. And if there's, it's like, if something like and having somebody like that, a good connection contact, where he is somebody who trusts you too. So a business banker who trusts us, like a handful of years ago, FEMA, the disaster people, every 10 years, they draw new flood
Mm-hmm.
plans. And
Mm-hmm.
where our office is in Minnesota is right on a pond. And we own our own office space, and or we in the bank own
Yeah.
our own
Right.
office space.
Right.
uh and we we were every 10 years on a commercial deal, we ours anyway, and I think this is pretty common. You've got to refinance every 10 years. And so 10 years was up, and this banker I'm referring to called up. He goes, hey, we were just trying to re-up you've got to re-up your office loan. And I go, oh, okay. And he goes, but we can't do it because you're in a flood zone now. Now, what?
Mm-hmm.
Now we are. And I'm looking around, going, the pond is. We're still here. The pond's still there, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, but anyway, so we had to go. We had to petition to FEMA. We had to have an engineer come out, survey, and all the stuff, and present this to FEMA. Eventually, it was 6 months and a fair amount of money to some
Mm-hmm.
newbie down at
Mm-hmm.
FEMA hit the wrong button and colored in our whole areas underwater or something, and we weren't. But anyway, so the point there is here's somebody, a banker who knows you. They go, you know what? Don't worry about it. We'll as long as it takes, don't worry about it. We know you're good for it.
Mm-hmm.
Just pay us, interest only until you get it figured out, and then we'll lock it in and da 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 da. And then that person leaves. Uh, so things like that then sort of go away because you don't know who you're going to get and
Right.
how much experience and how many of those people you're going to go through before they find a good one. But anyway, the point there is letting people know and give them some notice. So
Yeah.
there could be things that I wanted to wrap up with that bank before this guy left, and I don't think there was, but um but you might have some things you want to wrap up before the guy leaves. Oh, hey, can you make sure that in our
Right.
file, and where you hand it off, can you please do this? Because, here's what we found that goes right or wrong, or before you showed up, this was a mess. Just something. Give them enough advance, and maybe even, is there something I can do for you before I leave? How can I set this up right for you before I go, so that it works best for you. Yes, so something like that. And that's cool and considerate, rather than just going, hey, I've switched jobs. And you go,
Yeah.
what? That would
Well,
have
that'll
been
pay
nice.
dividends later when you do that with someone. Hey, let me set this up for you before I leave. Let's
Right,
make sure the handoff is as smooth as, I'm leaving, so I can only make it as smooth as I can make it. And as
right.
long as my client sees that I'm doing that, that leaves a lot of opportunity for me to either A, do business with that client down the road or get
Hmm.
referral business from that client.
Yeah,
So you can't abandon your modus operandi here. I mean, your MO has got to stay consistent, whether I'm
yeah,
leaving, staying, running, whatever it is, just because there's opportunity there. And, in the spirit of keeping in contact with everybody you've ever met along the way, you want to make sure it's the right contact and do the right thing by them. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Yeah, most people don't do that kind of thing. They just surprise everyone. And then they wonder why it's hard to, you know, because maybe that deal doesn't work out, the deal they're going to, and now they've got all these contacts who, maybe they go back to somebody that they left, go, hey, I'm looking, do you have something over there? And they go, screw you, man, you left me hanging. You
Yeah.
think I want to
Oh
employ you?
yeah.
Or versus, man, you did the right thing. Boy, what
Hmm.
a love to have somebody like that on our team.
Mhm. So I guess, I think one thing that seems like is often confused is the notion of creative contact. And so I think what might be interesting to hear from you guys is using this business banker as an example. If you guys are in his shoes and he's retiring, and let's say he has a feeling that in about a year or two he's going to get bored of fishing and sitting on his front porch and want to get back out and do something. How would you tell him or show him how would you guys go about maintaining creative contact with this big network that you've built up, this list of contacts, in a way that leaves it primed, so in a couple of years when you come back and decide that you want to exit the retirement train and get back involved, and that you come back to a well primed network.
Yeah, I think when people are pulling the plug, retiring, I don't think they think of it like that.
No.
But would you want?
Maybe your
I
A's. Maybe your A's. Because A's typically, let's take our business banker relationship for an example. I actually
yeah,
ran into him and his wife. I was out with my girlfriend,
just
and
recently.
right after he retired, I
Oh,
ran into him, and we're had a few beers together, and hey, let's do this again, kind of thing. So we knew him. We knew him. I mean, we knew him like very well. Like John said, he knew where we lived. We'd go out to lunch. So that's an easy one
I've been to
to.
his house,
Right. Yeah,
a couple
exactly.
times.
We both have vintage like Toyotas that, from the early 70s, so we have this shared common interest, and so that one's pretty easy I think with your A's, but I would agree. I think when most people unplug and retire, that's the last thing on their mind. But
Yeah,
because we had this relationship, it wouldn't be weird for him to just email out of the blue to either one of us and go, "Hey, how's it going?" Or even something that is, I know it's not just for me, it's for everybody. Just like, "Hey, just kicking
Mhm.
back in retirement, thinking of you, blah blah blah." And you don't need to do that once a month then, because we know you're out of the game, right? But when you get something like that from someone once every 3 6 months or something, you go, "Oh," because it's still there. But I don't think most people would care about that. If I'm
no,
unplugging, I'm unplugging. Um,
and I don't want to get. I don't what so him specifically. So I know the last he spent the last couple months in Europe bumming around. I don't want to know about that. I really don't. I don't want
yeah,
to. I don't want to see your. Yeah, yes, maybe send me a postcard.
right,
But I don't want to. I don't want to see. Like, oh, we're having a great time in the
right.
south of France. Oh, good for you. Uh, and but something specific about him, though, because I don't know if I find that interesting. Maybe it's more interesting to him, and it seems to me a little braggadocious. And look, I don't care. You're skating around. That's just me. Maybe I'd go, okay, wonderful. But this specific guy too, he's not retiring from everything in the world. He's still. Chuck brought up the former banker and Chuck have these vintage Toyotas and so to get parts for some of the stuff, he has some of these parts manufactured. So like things that don't exist anymore or
Hmm.
something that so he still is in business. And I would
Hmm.
still think that, I'm interested in something, I'm interested in like, oh, that's interesting. I don't want a tourist shot from the south of France. Oh, we're boating around today. Yeah, I
Hmm.
don't want that. But maybe it would be something that would be more interesting, like the stuff he is continuing to do. Oh, I found this deal. Here's this little part. Now we're making them. It's cool. I didn't, you know,
Mhm.
and but and not again like he's trying to sell me something, because I don't want it, and Chuck probably doesn't need it either. Most people don't, but it's sort of like, the new adventure, or I
Right.
don't know, just keep, if you're going to send something to somebody, I think it's not like one of those letters that people send out over Christmas time and go, oh,
Oh
Janie
gosh.
is I don't want that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, we spent another wonderful airbrushed, Christmas in a scenic mountain village, and our kids are so wonderful,
Mhm.
you know. Oh my God, if you could only have my life, and I don't want that. I don't want, but something like, which it might be cool if there's something interesting that happened there, that would be
Right.
interesting to me and not interesting to their braggadocious sort of, you know,
Well, if you
situation.
know the people you're doing business with, because I mean, John and I, we've traveled. I mean, we've been all over the place together, and there's stories, right? I think stories are awesome. I always like to share stories. I like to
Yeah,
hear stories. I want to hear stories. I think stories are fun. Like, oh well, we ate at this one restaurant that's so good. Like, what things I do is, if I hear about that and I'm traveling to a foreign land, I'll send a picture of me outside the restaurant that they were telling me about. So it engages them. I think if I don't want to just go, look at me, I'm floating around the south of France, I'm having a good time. Who
yeah,
cares? No, I don't care. No one cares. They don't care, whatever. But if you said, hey, there's this place in the Côte d'Azur that has this perfect restaurant. You can get the best clams ever. Then you go there and you send a picture like, hey, thanks for the tip. That feels good to people. That's engaging, not just something that doesn't relate. It's weird. I think it's weird when people send me stuff that doesn't relate.
yeah, agreed. Yeah. Chuck's right. A story. So one of the things that it's just a little, and it's brief, just brief. It's not a long story. It's just brief. You know, saw this place. I heard about, or whatever the case is. You got
Right.
to be mindful. It's got to be interesting to the recipient. You know. Yeah. Anyway, so we went a long way from your question about
Mm,
how to let people know you're leaving. Let them know
right.
in advance, and then when you do, when keep in contact. Like you said, creative contact. What's creative contact? Creative
Hmm.
contact is often just a short little story. Just like, hey, here's something you might, you know. it- like one of the classic ways we do it is I saw this and thought of you. Uh, and so you make it about the recipient, even though you send it out to 13,000 people. You know,
Right.
they don't know that. you
Right.
know, they go, "Oh, that's cool," and they don't really put two and two together like that, because it probably is something that applies to them. It's like, "Oh, okay. Yeah. Saw this and, I thought you might, or you might find it interesting. Saw this and thought you might find it interesting. Most all the 13,000 people I sent to probably would find it interesting. So I'm not lying.
Hmm.
It's true. And it keeps me on their mind that, oh man, next thing you see them, you go, oh, I saw your email where you jumped off the cliff, and man, that was yeah, that was cool. Or did this and thought of you
Right.
and did it, or something like that.
I saw you
And
jump off the
then
cliffs and more. Yeah, it was great. Never made it back. I was immediately thought of, because we were
yeah,
both
yeah.
in Ireland
That's
recently, not
yeah. I
together,
don't
but
think I don't. Has anybody ever survived that?
I
I
don't know.
don't
I
know.
doubt it.
People fall off that way. God, that's that can
That's intimidating.
that's an intimidating little spot.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
yeah. You know how you hike up when you hike up. What is that little town, Doolin? Did you stay in Doolin?
Yeah, we stayed in Doolin. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So you hike up from Doolin and you're going uphill, and
yeah.
you know how you're on the road at first, but then you can take the trail off and you can go, and then there's a fenced off field with cows in it.
Hmm.
And so we went to up to the fence and then over to the cliff, and walked along the skinny little between the fence and the I mean, I was scared out of my mind. And sometimes, the dirt hangs over and you don't know that there's nothing under you until you look down and there's a hole in the ground,
Yeah.
and like this, and you can see,
Right.
depending on how high you are is how high you are, but that it's a that's
Well,
a
what's funny
dangerous.
is they expect you to be responsible. Like in the States, they wouldn't let you anywhere close
No,
to where these
no,
trails are, right? But over
no
there,
way.
they go, we expect that you're not an idiot. Over
Yeah,
here, they go,
look, if you don't have common sense enough to stay away from the cliff and you fall in, that's on you.
that's
It's
on
not
you.
on the Irish government to put up they're
Yep.
doing their, look, it's a cliff, for God's sake. Stay away
Right.
from it. And if you fall off, well,
100%.
that's one less idiot, so,
Hmm.
the Irish are smart that way.
Right. It's so true. Anyway.
So within creative contact, how you're describing it, it's there's a blend of personal stories, and then I'm like most of the time when you get business marketing emails, right, or business communications, it's very like oh, we're the 32nd, we won this award, or it's we're 70 number 3 on the margins list, or generally people save 30%. It's very it's that type of very
Yeah,
marketing type.
salesy.
Yeah. Is that what's the frame that you put into creative contact versus that, or does that fall into creative contact?
I don't like that stuff. I don't like to receive it. um, and I don't like to send it. So I would, if I'm going to do something industry related, maybe it's a story like, hey, if let's say, for example, if there's a new app, I'm not going to go, hey, you know what, there's an app that you're going to love it, da 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 da. They would tell a story about it. There's a new app that came out where
Hmm.
here's how they're, I saw this, thought you might find it interesting. Maybe it's somebody that's using the app, and here's a story that they, you know, that, and so I just tell about that. And hey, if there's anything you ever need, I'm always here for you. That's it. That's almost how it always wraps up. I'm always here for you.
Hmm.
If you ever need anything, have any questions, I'm always here for you. I don't go, hey, call me now and save 15% off the app. Nah, I don't do that. Uh, the most recent one that we sent out for First Financial was about an app, about, there's specifically what it was. It was, how there's apps you can accept credit cards for, through a lot of apps now. The
Hmm.
problem is that when you use the app, they sort of dictate how you do business. This is how you're going to do it. It's not, because like a website, for example, you can buy, just put your pictures in here. Well, it might not work the way you want it.
Right.
And if you use WordPress, then you can customize it however you want. You can do all kinds of plugins and all kinds of custom stuff and make it work the way you want. Uh, where so a lot of people choose just to get the app, and then they have to run their business how this app works, and then the fees that they charge are a lot, more than they're high. Let's just say that higher than what we would do. So there's a lot of examples out there now, because there's so many apps where we run into merchants out there that have the app, but it doesn't quite work right. So they had to buy another app to work with this app, and another one to guide it in their QuickBooks. And it's like, I've got 3 apps, and $100 a month in app fees, and then
Right.
plus they're charging me 3.5% over here, and a nickel over there, and 12 cents over there. It's like, okay, so for somebody like that, it's just, hold on with the whole app business. Let's decide what it is you want. And now there's so many tools that we can quickly, if we understand what it is you want, we can quickly customize something. Because also, I mean, we don't sell all those apps. I mean, we have apps that you can buy, but we also have the ability to all the elements in an app. We can pick and choose maybe out of this particular element of the app. Oh, you want it to work this way? Okay, let's take the basic one out and put this one in. Does that work better for you? Yeah, it does. Wow. And then over here, you want it then this to plug into QuickBooks. Yeah. So instead of, so we can create one thing the way you want it to work, rather than you trying to jimmy rig all these apps together. So the last one was the story of what did I call it? The story of the overcharged electrician.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I wrote the little story about the story of the overcharged electrician, and it just it said, hey, if you ever want something customized, let me know. I was here for you. So uh, I wasn't trying to sell it. And I don't know what the ending was. If you ever want something customized, there's something really benign in the
Hmm.
call to action. But it's always, I'm always here for you. If you ever have any questions about, you know, anything you want to do over there, let me know. I was here for you. So, something like that. I would rather be understated, uh, than otherwise you turn into, you have to, you ever noticed in advertising, what's that thing called truth in advertising? There's a thing called truth in advertising because there's a lot of lies in advertising.
Right.
And so rather than trying to be an advertiser and sound more clever than everybody else, you don't have to. Just tell a little story. Chuck
Right.
mentioned everybody loves stories. Tell a little story about something you saw or something that's going on, and that's it. And people find the stories interesting, and they know that the next time your email comes in, it's not going to be one of those, hey,
Right.
well, yeah, I'm saved $713. You see that new one on TV, everybody, well, $713, 713. Like, you know what? Can you just shut the hell up? I'm not going to save seven. I don't even know. I don't even have what you have.
Right.
Just to, maybe something a little more engaging. But it's interesting advertising today too. You can almost take company A out and put company B in, and it looks just like everybody else's. Everybody kind of does it the same way, and they go, "Well, it must be how it works." These people are doing it. I should do it too. No, you really shouldn't. You should come up
I'm
with
not
your own
thinking
little
so.
thing and use a story. You know, one of the best, most sticky ads that ever happened was this is a long time ago, but you can see it was MasterCard, and it was a dark background, and somebody came on, and they go, "Oh, I just got the call. My father had a heart attack, and I wanted to go visit him, and basically didn't have the limit on my card. I called MasterCard. They helped me out. MasterCard. That was it. They faded away. That was it. And people go, "Oh my God!" Or AT&T back when, and the guy was I'm trying to remember the ad exactly, but it played it a long time, and everybody they it was about a guy calling his mom, and she was so happy to get his call. In the busy day, he took the time to call his mom, and there wasn't like, hey, call AT&T 15% off. It
Hmm.
was it was just little snippets of stories like that have meaning.
Well, and by
And
using
and
stories, you can get away with, because people who don't use stories typically end up selling by price, right? It's always a price thing. People that use stories and engage with their clients and have that creative contact, it's less about price and it's more about either call it the relationship or the security of knowing I'm getting good service, that things work. Because we see it all the time in our business. We're in the card processing business, and it doesn't matter how cheap it is if it doesn't work. Because and we saw this with a segment of clients that we are dealing with. Like, you ever go to a car wash and you put your card in? It's called a card cat transaction, where you put your card in and it initiates the transaction. Well, that wasn't working, right, at all these car washes. Well, and imagine you own this car wash and you got 8 people in line, and the first guy in line, this thing's not working and it's jamming up. Does it matter how cheap it is then when everybody's got to back up to let this guy out? It's like,
yeah, can't go forward, can't go backwards.
get yeah,
Imagine
you're
being in that
stuck,
position.
and you
Yeah.
got to like fight or get out of the other side of your car to go inside to get the attendant, because you're like, dude, I'm stuck here. Or you're rolling your window down, you're yelling, hoping someone hears you. So you know
Was
what I mean?
but it's
So
a good story
it's a
anyway.
and it's a relatable one. We've all been in scenarios like that, or like you're going through the car wash and the door doesn't open at the end, and you're like, oh shit, I gotta, like, I gotta brake, but I can't brake because this thing's pushing me through, and it's like people panic, right? So you use stories to create these feelings that people understand and they can relate to. So when they know they can relate to you, then they want to do business with you, because it all boils down to like one thing when you funnel it all down is we all want to deal with people who get it. And it is different depending on what you're talking about. But so does it matter how cheap it is if that's what you're running into every other day? We've literally had clients go, I don't care what this costs, just make it work. And we're in a situation where the gentleman who's dealing with that is pretty technical, and he figured out and made it work. And they love the guy. The people that are running the day-to-day operations, they're going, you've made my life so much easier. I don't So you got to use stories that people can relate to, and then you don't have to sell by price, which means you make a little more money. And if I make more money, I can spend more time creating value for my clients and pulling through and servicing them properly. Because if I'm not making money and I'm having to scramble, then it's like a chaotic lifestyle. And how is that free? Being
Yeah.
chaotic is not free. So it's like it's just like this operating system that I think if you're in the business of doing business, you should probably operate with. You know what I mean? So stories are great, things that
Does
people
that
can relate to.
does that make sense? Because your question was,
Mhm.
what really is creative contact? Is it creatively going, hey, 15% off, or is it something different? And it's something different.
Right.
Yep.
It's different.
Yeah, that's helpful, and I think addresses that. A
Good.
good overview.
Good. Was it a good story? Can you
It was a good
envision
story.
yourself in line at a car wash?
I can not only see it, I can feel it.
Yeah, right. You can feel it.
Right.
That's the best. That's the best.
All right, next question that came in here is, I'm, I'm I think I'm pitching too early. So this is from a B2B. They're implementing inventory management for B2B sales. So for just a
They're
streamlining
selling.
inventory management. Yeah, correct. So I think I'm pitching too early. I get on calls and immediately start talking about my solution, how it works, success stories, features, basically giving a presentation. Then at the end, prospects say it sounds interesting, but they're not sure if it's right for them. I'm realizing I need to qualify better before pitching, but I don't know how to structure that conversation. If I spend too much time asking questions, I feel like prospects get impatient and just say, tell me what you do. If I pitch first, I waste time on unqualified prospects. What's the actual structure of qualification in order to determine whether it's worthwhile to take a conversation versus this approach that I'm taking?
What's funny is the word pitching and pitch was used. I don't know, maybe I lost count. It was so many. I ran out of fingers. Wrong mindset. Completely wrong mindset. Pitching means I just want you to hear me, right? That's not, there's a term that we use in sales, and especially younger people get into sales or newer people. It's like selling is not telling. You have to ask your way there. You got to engage with them the whole way. And what happened to discovery? He kind of touched base on it a little bit. Like, should I qualify them? You think? You think you should ask some more questions? Yeah, you know it internally. You know it, but see, this person's been trained to pitch, 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 and it's not working because they know that's not natural. That's not a natural feeling. They're feeling it. That's why this question came in. You got to do discovery. You got to do relationship building. You got to do recon. We like to call it recon. You kind of figure out before you, and I hate to even say the word pitch, but before you present the options to them, you need to know exactly everything that they are either looking for. And if they don't know what they're looking for, it solves the problems they have. You can't uncover those unless you spend a fair amount of time navigating through and asking questions. And when you're asking those questions, what's the most important thing we do? When you ask those questions is you tie down. Oh, okay. So you're saying if it can eliminate this, then that's something you're looking to do then? Yes. Okay. You can't just ask them. You got to ask them with the gentle tie downs in there along the way to bring them with you. And then you present. You don't pitch. What are you throwing them, a baseball? What do you
Right.
want to sit there and throw them a 90-mile-an-hour baseball? That's what you want? No, you're not pitching. you're laying out options for them, right? So anyway, I don't know. I
Well,
feel bad for that
I
person.
always think we were buying a handful of years ago. We are buying a new phone system for our office, and so I call a couple of different people who are sell phone systems in the area. Go, hey, I'm looking, and they go, oh, we'll come by and I'll show you what we've got. Perfect. So the first one, I meet in the conference room and we sit down and so most people are taught uh rapport and relationship. This is 4 steps to a sale: rapport and relationship, presentation, overcoming objections, and close. So this guy comes in. So this is probably what's on most people's mind when they're selling, and their idea of rapport and relationship. You have to, you got to feel this. Chuck used the word natural. A rapport and relationship is this, all right, I'm trying to find my way to start. How do I
Mhm.
start? And so this guy, we sit down and he goes, hey, how about those Twins? And I go, so baseball, right? Because we're in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul. He assumes that I watched the game last night. I don't follow baseball. So Chuck had mentioned recon, and feeling this out. And so before you launch into something, when you're just, even when you're doing rapport and relationship, you've got to, you've got to take other cues other than what you think that you should say. Just because I'm a
Mhm.
guy and happen to be in Minnesota in the summertime, you think I'm a Twins fan. That's a dangerous assumption that didn't
Mhm.
go right. And I thought, since we do this for a living, I thought, okay, here we go, and here we went.
Mhm.
So I go, well, no, I'm not, don't really follow baseball. And then he's like, he doesn't have anything beyond that. But what one of the things that we teach people to do, if you're actually going to go in and see somebody at their place, look around. What do they have on their walls? You go, hey, yeah, I was just looking. What? And so you start asking stuff about them. You lead question. Who leads the question? The person asking the question, or the person responding?
The
The
conversation
question
is
asker.
led by, right, the guy
Always
asking the question. Give him the
right. So
tidbit. Give him the free tidbit right now. What is the best question we've ever seen when you ask what do you ask that client? The best question.
how'd you get into this business? You go, man, how'd you
Yeah.
get into this business? And now they're talking, and you go, oh, how about that? How'd you do
Mhm.
this? How'd you do that? How'd that go? Well, what happened next? And I'm in a conversation that I'm interested in. And
Right.
so that just naturally, and so now you've got to, you can't talk for 18 hours about this because people get burned out. But you're aware, that you're having an interesting conversation, and then you have to understand that this can go a little bit, and then we have to lead it back to, and I go, okay, so so when we're looking at phone systems, are you thinking this or that? Oh, I was thinking
Mhm.
more like this. Okay, and then you go, okay, would you use it like this or like that, or would this be better? You know what? So you're asking questions along the way. This is not a presentation;
Right.
it's a conversation. But this guy, after the Twins thing, he goes, "Oh well, we've got the XYZ, 10,000, the Nimbus 2000 phone system, and it does this, 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 and man, you people are gonna love it because this pops up and goes over here and goes." And I go, Hold on a second." I go, "Do you even know what I want?" And he kind of went. He just paused and like, "No." I go, how might you know what I want? So then you could sell me. If you have that, I could then buy it.
Mhm.
He goes, well, I don't know. Maybe you could ask me what I want.
Right.
What,
Right.
and he goes, okay, well, try it. What do you want? Well, here's what and then, God, we did not buy that phone system, and not that because he didn't have it, just he didn't have what we needed, but
Right.
it can be really clunky up front. It can be clunky up front. You get into you fumble around with a foreign relationship because you aren't taking clues. You're not asking the best question. That if you're selling to somebody who's in business, you come in and go, hey, how you doing? How did you ever get into this business? Oh,
Right.
I saw this or I saw that. How'd you get into this? Or if you're at somebody's home, You go, oh, you've got a beautiful home. How'd you decide on this neighborhood, or how'd you decide on,
Mhm.
whatever, you ask oh, and this unlocks so much emotion and conversation.
Right.
It tells you where the conversation should start going. And then you that's the way you go. And then you bring it back to whatever it is that you want the conversation to be. Oh, okay, I see. So in a phone system, then would you want this or that? So now we're on
Right.
track. And after a really good rapport and relationship that didn't last too long, because if you're clunky about it, hey, how about those twins? Oh, do you follow the links? No. Dude, what about this? What about do you grasping at straws? You don't know what to say. I'm getting tired of you already. Or you can ask me how I got into this business. Oh my God, have I got a story for you? And I'm interested in it because it's my story, you know?
Right.
So
Right.
if
And you got
you
to ask
understand,
questions along the way. Like when they're describing this to you, you don't just go, "Oh, okay." So anyway, we have the
yeah,
Nimbus
or
2000. Yeah.
people go, yeah, yeah. Yeah, whenever you hear yeah, yeah, that means they don't give a shit. They have
Yep.
no care
That
about
is
what
so
you
true.
just said. They did
Mhm.
not listen. They go, yeah, they're just waiting to talk. They're waiting to pitch.
Yep.
They're waiting, yeah, yeah. And you'll hear it. Within the next 48 hours, you'll hear it. Yeah, yeah. And then somebody,
Yeah, yeah,
they'll
yeah.
move on. Yeah, yeah. And they didn't hear, they don't care what you said. They didn't even hear it. But somebody who's good at this craft,
Mhm.
they're like really picking up on everything. Oh, really? Was that blue or was it red? Oh, you got the oh man. And was that this or that? Oh yeah, blah blah blah. And away they go with the story. And again, they're gonna get tired of it because it's their story. And they
Right.
could talk all day, but then you'll have to get them back around, which is the opposite of this question asker's concern and problem is they get tired of listening to him because he's talking about him and shit that doesn't I don't care about. The other person just doesn't care about because you're not asking about them and trying to figure out their stuff. You're telling about you.
And along with that, and the reason I think one of the most important reasons to do that, I think I'm naturally that way. I love hearing other people's story. I think that's great because
Yeah.
there's tidbits you can pick up along the way that might apply to things that I'm working on. But the other part, and I think one of the most important reasons to do that is because we bring it back to pitching, right? If I'm going to pitch someone or sell them, I want them to talk for a while because then I know how they process information. Because how they're talking with me tells me a lot about them, right? Tells me what where their vocabulary is. So I want to be careful of things that I say. Like people that use acronyms when you're dealing with people that aren't, it's like, dude, just stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You want to talk to them in a language that they understand because they get they we've mastered this great pitch. All you got to do is read this script. They're magical words, and they're using $10 words that 90% of the population doesn't understand. You're not going to close squadoosh. You're not going to close anything. So no wonder
Mm,
you're struggling. So do the other thing
yeah.
first. Ask them, but they
Yeah.
ask them again, how'd you get into this? Or when I'm in someone's home, because we saw a lot of business owners work from home, and they process cards and they work from home. You see an artifact and they go, oh my God, where did you get this statue? And then, oh, we were in the south of France and blah, blah, blah. Bingo. And when that happens, you go, I can relate to this person now. Now we can relate openly
Hmm.
and less resistance. You know what I mean? Anyway,
Yeah.
I probably belabored it, but
Well, but it's important because most people miss it. It's easy to
yeah,
miss because sales training doesn't train it, and people who are in
right.
sales usually don't want it. What they want is the script. Oh, do you give scripts?
Yeah,
Yeah, no. Oh, well, the other company gives scripts. Like
right.
okay, but do you realize that's no what? But if you understand, like Chuck said, you listen to them a little bit and you start understanding their language. And when you ask questions and you understand their background and what they're interested in, and now the conversation just ensues. And it's not you weave where you want to go in with this conversation.
Yeah.
Chuck said this years ago. He said selling is conversation with a purpose. You
Mhm.
know, it's really, you really have to cue in to what they're saying. be interested. If you're not interested in what they're talking about,
You can
it's
have a
hard to,
hard time.
it's, yeah, if you, yeah, get into something else. It's better to, like, one of the one of the things that I always liked about the business that we're in is that I get to talk to entrepreneurs, and they're doing something, and they have ideas, and they've got dreams, and
Right.
they love opportunity. And so there's all these things that I love. I get to talk
Right.
to somebody who loves the same stuff. It's like, if I loved baseball, man, it'd be cool to go be in the baseball business. How fantastic would that be? I just generally am really interested in people's stories about what
Hmm.
they're interested in, for, like, opportunity wise, being an entrepreneur, and where they want to go, and what they're trying to achieve, and the things they've done in the past, and back to, how'd you get into this business? Oh man, before I was a drummer in a rock band, and and now I saw, I make drums.
Yeah. I
No,
mean, that's the kind
that's
of
a
stuff you run into. And it's cool. I think it's cool too. Talking opportunity is awesome. And we deal with entrepreneurs. They like opportunity. And if
yeah.
you're in sales, you must like opportunity, because aren't you paid on commission? So you're talking to someone that, you should be interested.
All right, next question that came in here is every all of the sales gurus that I follow say that you need elaborate sales funnels, lead magnets, email sequences, webinars, and nurture campaigns before people buy. I've built out all of this for my business, but it's complex, time consuming. I can't tell if it's actually working. Uh, how should I be thinking about this?
Well, I guess it depends. Okay. So I think anybody who calls himself a guru, you should run from as absolutely fast as possible. You know, uh, or the genius networks, and the genius groups. You know what? And Apple stores have the Genius Bar. I was riding my bike and had my laptop in the back of my, and I didn't have it zipped right, and it fell out, and it didn't work. I took it to the Genius Bar. Anyway,
Yep.
or any of
Yep.
these proclaimed geniuses, what they want you to do is buy their crap, right? And I guess if you're selling a widget online, that's a different thing. And if you're selling a widget online, maybe there's I would rather have somebody recommend my business. And I get that, if you want to sell stuff online, you want to do it all over the world. You've got a product that you want somebody in Zimbabwe to buy. You're probably going to have some sort of sales funnel and all that kind of thing. But it doesn't sound
Mhm.
like that's what this is, and I don't know what it is specifically. But we have spent a lot of time and money uh, trying out a lot of these things and reading the guru's books. And it sounds good. And then you get into it and you go, okay, it doesn't work the way the guru said necessarily. And of course, whatever they've been doing, they probably have been doing it for 20, 30 years, like
Right.
we've been doing this for 30 years. So, um, and usually too, today I'd say the average bear is a little more technically inclined, but still the average entrepreneur isn't. And so you get into something that's technically challenging, and it can get very fast, like CRMs specifically. We've had a lot of experience with sales funnels and all these different things, uh, and we have a tremendous amount of experience with CRM. And you mentioned that it takes a lot of time because it's difficult. These things are difficult, and you have to understand. You have to have you have to be able to be analytical and understanding how these things work. If you turn the gear this way, 17 gears up that way, which way does it go? Uh, and and most people that are verbally inclined, that we found anyway, aren't that way. If you're selling stuff, you're it's almost never do you find somebody who's really good at conversing with folks, that's really good technically. For those things don't seem to go together very well. So a lot of entrepreneurs have a lot of problems with this stuff. Uh, So CRM specifically, a lot of salespeople don't use CRMs, and most CRMs are bloated with features that sound magical. Their
Mhm.
advertising department, wrote things that they know people would love to have happen that you're never going to figure out with this very complicated software. Uh, they're and the some of the most typical CRM, one of the um, like the number one CRM, they have an integration team. They've got a team that, you're going to spend months and tens of thousands of dollars, trying to figure out an integration, for some sort of system that they don't know how to build it for you. And you don't know how to build it for you. I would say shed load. I'd say, how do you, what's like how can you have it as simple as possible, like running quickly, measurable, and like in the CRM we built, uh, we we stripped down everything. We have a system that we know prior to CRM that we
Mhm.
wanted it to run on, and so we ran it without it being electronic at first, and then when you start doing tests, for example, like I'm sure some of the software that this person is talking about, oh, you can test A/B tests, and
Right.
that assumes that you even understand how to do an A/B test, and you understand how to do an A/B test. How many variables are you looking at, and what's the analysis when it comes in, and so most people don't understand. uh, how to do how to do a good experimental design like that. So now you're getting into tall weeds really quickly, and all you want to do is sell some stuff. So this following the gurus, and they're saying you got to do all this stuff. We've done all that stuff, and we do basically none of it today.
Yeah.
We don't do any of that stuff, and how we made our money is not doing that stuff. How we spent a lot of time and money and energy and focus. It all sounds promising, but we couldn't really we couldn't figure out how to get free doing all that stuff. Um, it's just we had to we had to build it in a little different way. We used a combination. I would say is understanding. I would say, doing understanding human nature. I think a little better than most people, just because we observe it. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to start observing how people operate. Um, and a combination of just human behavior and and some automation. The automation that makes sense, that isn't overcomplicated, that you spend all day working on and miss the things that could really get you where you want to go. So
But I
so
thought you brought up a
it's
good point. Like when you said, like, if you're selling widgets online, that there's I don't consider that really like a sales process. The
yeah.
the sales that I've been involved with it my whole life has always been like interaction with, you have sales representative and client, those types of interactions. And I think a lot of people think they're going to develop this whole program to cut the work out. This is work that you can't cut out. If you're selling B2B, or you're selling some like financial planning, or whatever it is that you must know how to interact. So creating these huge systems that you think is going to do all this work for you, they're expensive, and you never get the ROI on it. The return on investment is not, you can't replace. This is where machines just won't replace human interaction. Okay, if I'm selling a widget online, you do all kinds of your analytics and marketing and funneling and do all this because there is no human interaction. I get that. That's not something that I've ever been interested in. I've never done that. It's just I don't know if there's enough money in that, I guess. I don't know. You got to sell a lot of widgets to make a lot of money. So I don't know. But it's a
Yeah.
waste.
Did that come around and answer you? Because the question was, oh, there he goes.
Mhm.
The question was, the gurus I follow.
Right.
And so right
Mhm.
away we go, look, if somebody considers themselves a guru, you should run as soon as possible.
Right.
And stop following. It's like, just stop following and start running your own race. You have to figure these things out for yourself. And obviously, the if because the person said, um, all the guys I follow say do this, yet
Yeah,
it's
do
not
this.
working
Yeah.
for me. And so okay, so all the gurus that you're following say that do this, but it's not working. Okay, well then there's something wrong with A to B here, A to Z.
Right.
Then maybe stop following the gurus because what they're telling you isn't getting what you want, right? Because right, I know you
Yeah.
disappeared though there for a moment. Do you hear what we're talking about? Okay. Yeah. So if the gurus are telling you this and it's not working, then maybe ask the gurus, go, all right, what am I missing here? And I bet that they don't know, uh, because they probably haven't done it themselves. Uh,
Right.
but if you're following a guru and it's not working, then
Gurus.
either gurus, right? You're following. God only knows how many people you're following. It's just stop following. It's if we can if people can figure out some things for themselves, right? It is I call it winning the new game.
Right.
Is understanding. Look, just stop following for a moment. Let's figure this out for ourselves. Because when we can self-diagnose, when we can figure stuff out for ourselves, and it clicks, we go, ah, I didn't
Hmm.
I didn't know that before. I didn't understand that. I was just following and it wasn't
Yep.
working out. Well, no shit, because it doesn't. But when you start unlocking this and your perspective changes and you go,
Right.
you know how you ever have something click?
Yeah. Yeah.
You didn't know it a moment before, and now you do, and you go, "Got it." You can't
Oh,
unsee that click,
right.
right? And if
Right.
all you do is follow, you never click. You do not ascend. Your intelligence stays the same, your understanding stays
Yep.
the same. But when you start unlocking yourself and it clicks, now we can start unlocking something else, and that clicks, and that clicks. And you get better and better and you look back at some of the things that you used to do and how you do them, or the gurus you used to listen to, or
Yep.
the all the stream of books that you're 20 books behind, trying to find the tidbit of somebody telling you how you should do it. Man, if you have to kick all that stuff to the curb, stand on your own for a moment and
Hmm.
start unlocking it, and you will become, you
Right.
become what you want to become, not a follower who never understands.
You know,
That
that is 100% spot on. You can't follow, right? I learned a lesson when I was in college from a roommate I had. He was really big into sports gambling, like football games, basketball games, all those things. And he would, he'd book games for people, and he was my roommate, so I kind of saw what was going on. And he always said, when everybody bets on one team, he said, bet the opposite, because and we saw it in the last Super Bowl, right? Everybody, oh, Kansas City's going to win. Kansas City's going to win. Philadelphia kicked their tails, right? So what I learned at a young age, in my early 20s, is if you follow what everybody else is doing, 90% of the time it's not going to work out very well for you. And he showed me, like, repeatedly, weekend after week, and goes, everybody's betting on USC. He goes, the other team's going to cover. And I'd be like, holy smokes. So if you're following what everybody else is doing, it's probably not the right way to go, and it's probably not going to be successful. So if every guru is telling you that, I would question that. The first thing I do is go, okay, I got to question this, because if that's what everybody's doing, I don't want to do what everybody's doing. I want to do what I want to do. I want to be free. I don't want to, because they're not free. So I'm going to follow somebody's advice who's not free. That doesn't sound right to me. But
yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Well, and I think it was this guy back here, Aristotle said, question everything.
Hmm.
Or maybe it was his predecessor, Plato. I don't remember which of those cats did that, but it was question
Right.
everything. you know, question
Right.
everything. I remember, here's a different sort of story, but couple things. When I see people in line, and or let's say everybody's turning left for some reason, I'll turn right just on principle, because I know the chance of them going left or me, they're going the wrong way. I've
Right.
no, I'll just go right, unless it's going off a cliff or something obviously
Right.
wrong.
Of course.
Uh,
Right.
but but I'll look for, when you see where people are lined up, or go the other way, or when you see people go next time you go anywhere to any event, you'll see most people all go through the same door, and they'll line up, even though there's 4,
Or other
maybe
doors
40
open.
doors, plenty
Mhm.
other doors. They'll all go through the same door. It's just what is that? So they're following just aimlessly, right? Even though they could go quicker. Um, there was one time, I remember we're standing outside. What's the theater downtown Minneapolis in the winter? The
Oh,
Orphe
Orpheum?
the well,
Orpheum.
where the plays
Orpheum.
are. Like, we were standing in line for Scrooge, the
Mhm.
Christmas Story, and it was so incredibly cold outside. And we got there, and the wind's blowing, and it's like, oh my God, this is so cold. We're standing there. Remember, there's a little girl and her mom, and a little girl in front, her mom and a daughter. And I remember the daughter had a little red dress. And of course, girls are in Minnesota. It's like it's January, or no, it's not. Can't be January. It's got to be December before Christmas. But it was cold outside, and this little girl had bare legs, and she's, Mom, I'm, why do I have to stand in line? I'm freezing. And her mom's, getting impatient. And you know how eventually parents will go, when kids go, why? And finally parents go, just, be quiet. It's because that's just how it is. It's because.
Yeah,
And I think that's where we start getting how to figure things out squashed out of us, is when our parents
right.
say, you know, stop asking why. You ever hear that? Stop asking
Mhm.
why.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, you hear that? And I think, no, another follower. Anyway, so we're standing in line, and it's like, what the hell? How is this line going so slow? And I think,
Mhm.
and because I can see some of the people in there because there's glass, and you can see them going up the
Right.
the escalator. I'm thinking, if this place is on fire, if you could only get out this as slow as we're going in, get out, they'd all be burned to death in there. And I go, there's got to be another way. And I went, just, hold on. And I wheeled around because you couldn't see the front. And I went there. There were 4 doors. Everybody's going through one door. And you don't deal with your tickets at the door. So, it wasn't anything
What's
like,
it
oh, you can
right.
only. And so I go, hey, I come back, grab the family, and I go, let's go. And I said to the mom and the girl with the little red dress, I go, you know, I go, hey, maybe your mom can follow you. Let's go. So I go, hey, let's go up to the front. There's more doors. And they came along, and we all got in, and lickety split out of the cold. Um, one last story about this. When I was a kid, I remember how old I was, but I grew up in a little town in Iowa, and everybody has Kool-Aid stands or lemonade stands at some point in their life. And and of course that's what you do when you're a kid, and you see them all over the place. And these kids think they're going to make some money. And so I had 2 of my buddies, and we set up this, drug a card table. I lived like, it's in our neighbor's yard, and it was on a corner. And we drug the old card table, and he made our sign, and and made a couple of flavors. And we sat out there. It was so freaking hot, so hot. We sat in the sun. It was like the 3 little kids, ready to have heat stroke. My colleagues were drinking our inventory for self-preservation. It was,
My co
nobody was
my
stopping.
colleagues, my colleagues. Yeah.
you know, and so the day is done, and we're dragging all of it back. And I remember the grass under our bare feet was crunchy. It's like it gets crunchy and brown, and it just like hurts your feet when you walk on it.
Right.
So we drug all the stuff back across the crunchy lawn and through my neighbor's yard and back to my place. And we decided we're going to do it again tomorrow. Well, the next day they show up, and oddly, not looking like we're going to be selling Kool-Aid today. They had their shorts on and towels around the neck on their bikes, and they were going to go to the pool, the municipal pool where I grew up. There was
Right.
one pool in town,
Yeah.
and all the kids went there. And I was like, okay, well, you guys go. And because I thought, I think I could do this differently. And so I had a little red wagon. And so I loaded up the drinks in a red wagon on the opposite side of the block from our house. They were building an 8-plex apartment building. And again, hot summertime. I drug my wagon over there, and these guys were just going on break. And they were like, hell yeah, we'd like some cold drinks. They drank all of it and go, man, can you come back tomorrow? I sold, unless it rained, I went there every day and sold out, the Kool-Aid or lemonade, whatever. Took a couple flavors every day. And then when I went down, and then later. So I was done by lunchtime. I'd sold out, where all the rest of the kids in town with these stupid Kool-Aid stands were having heat stroke. And then I could go down, rode my bike down to the municipal pool, and I had a little change in my pocket to buy there's this
Buy candy
cute little
bars and soda
cute little
pops
freckle
and like,
faced girl that I'd buy whatever she wanted out at the snack shack,
right,
and and we enjoyed a nice cold whatever ice cream under the big cottonwood tree
right.
over by the school. Yeah, but yeah, I stopped following and start on there's so and I I don't know why those things occur, right? But you go, okay, how most people do things doesn't work out, and then they grasp at straws and they join somebody else's method, and that doesn't work out, and they never understand why. But it's like, hold on, you need to figure this stuff out. You need to walk with wonder. Like, how would I? Start observing and testing simple little tests, tiny little things that you can figure out yourself. Um, and you gain knowledge, ascending. Um, Neuroscientists call it ascending intelligence. And pretty soon you know how to do it,
Right.
and you're standing on your own and you are free. That was a really good question. I didn't expect that one.
Good. Um, well, I think we have time for one last one here. Uh, let's see. Next one came in is I've memorized objection handling scripts for every pushback. Uh, I think I need to think about it. I need to talk to my partner. We don't have that sort of budget. But when I use these scripted responses, it feels it breaks. It creates It feels like it creates tension and breaks the flow. What is this? Is this the approach I should be taking, or is there a better way to do this?
Man, Chuck, how many times have we, I don't know all the things you've sold in the past, but I remember, God, I remember they give you sheets or they give you cards,
Hmm.
right? Oh,
Yep.
you write how to overcome the objection on this card. And so then you drill each other. Like you're in the sales group and you go, oh, when somebody says this, what do you say? And you
Right.
go, it's number 4 in your cards.
Yeah. Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I say this, like, there's that flow that doesn't exist. Of course, it's going to feel unnatural because the response that's typed out on this card doesn't fit the scenario exactly. When they
Mhm.
say this, they don't say that exactly. They say it in a different way. And so you have to understand your art here. What you have to you have to understand way beyond, and probably even before that ever came up. There are other ways you could have gone about this sales conversation. So you can anticipate, like one of the things Chuck always says is, I expect that they're going to have some questions, objections, whatever you want to call them. So, so rather than having cards, before you get there, you play your own cards in a certain way. So when you get to these points where chances are things are going to come up, maybe you've already covered the stuff in advance with tie downs along the way. So when it comes up, maybe you say, well, let me ask you, when we're talking about this before, you said this, right? Oh, yeah, yeah, I did. Or when you have a conversation and it's a back and forth real conversation, not a pitch, uh, then you have, I've found you have a lot fewer objections. You might have objections, questions, that kind of thing, but it's not like out of the blue awkward stuff. Like like in so many, what comes to mind is one summer I sold, it's not timeshare, but it's like timeshare, but it's campground memberships. And God, it was such an old fashioned, horrible sales situation. They get people in, give them a couple nights free camping, and then
Mhm.
you take them on a tour and you try to sell them, a $10,000 membership to the campground, and it was so sleazy, so absolutely sleazy. Um, but they did that. They gave you, they drilled you on overcoming these objections. They gave you a sheet and you put them on cards and you're supposed to practice this stuff. And and it was interesting because that summer too, I met a guy named Rick, and Rick. We all sold. All of us were kind of in this dust cloud in the middle. Rick was outside. He sold everybody, and it was almost effortlessly. And one day I go, "Hey man, can you teach me what it is that you're doing?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'll take you under my wing." And so we sat up at a picnic table, and I had an old tape recorder, a mini tape recorder, weighed like 900 pounds. It was small, but
Hmm.
very heavy. Anyway, so I go, "You mind if I record you?" He goes, "Nah, not at all." And so I recorded him, and so I recorded him just going through the thing, and then we did it again where I could go, and he would stop and go, all right, I'm doing this here because later this is going to come up, and I'm doing this. I reach out and touch them here because of this. I ask them these things because of that, and it's like it was totally. There was no, there were no, none of these objection cards. There was no script. There was none of that stuff. I mean, he had it scripted, not scripted, but he had a map, a roadmap of where we were
Hmm.
going to go, and it varied on that a little bit dependent on how they answered. And so, and I tell you, I learned so, it was like so eye opening. It wasn't, it was he was a master of his craft, and the rest of us were just reading off scripts.
Yeah. Well, and when you have this packed little portfolio of rebuttals to use at these different scripts, the problem is it becomes like almost argumentative, because the proper way to handle an objection is you got to kind of like paraphrase it first, right? And and sometimes it sounds almost like a little redundant, but you go, oh, okay. So they go, no, I just think that's too expensive. Oh, okay. So what you're saying is it's too expensive. You got to, okay, I can understand. Let me ask you, what part about it do you feel is too expensive? That's like one thing I preach at home to everybody is like, you ever hear the old expression, reason things out? I want to reason things out with you. Just reading a rebuttal off of an objection sheet is not reasoning. It's not interactive. It's just like argumentative, right? So that's the first mistake. And the second mistake is you're not paraphrasing it so they know I truly understand what you're thinking. Okay. If I just come back with this quip little something that was scripted out for me, you're not relating to them. I mean, there's so many problems with it, and I like, and I can see whomever wrote this question by how it was written. I can only imagine how the rebuttals are working for you, because, well, when I get pushback,
Yeah,
okay,
right.
well,
Yeah, right.
you know what? Why don't we circle about? I'll ping you later, and then we'll circle back around. And I'm going to take this as a takeaway right now. It's all this like corporate mumbo jumbo that nothing ever gets done. Shit takes 8 months that could have been done in a half-hour meeting. You know what I mean? It's like, so one, if you're communicating with people like that, you're probably not having much success anyway. So try paraphrasing it and try using reasoning. And if you're tying down along the way, because it's funny, people go, oh, I pitch and I get all these objections. It's like all those objections should have been worked through prior to your pitch, dude. Do you see what I'm
You-
saying?
can you tell sometimes we get a little worked up? It's like
I do. It's like,
but
man,
but well, how many years have people been selling stuff, and it's still the same? Really, you're teaching it's the sales trainers are really doing a disservice. Sales
right?
managers. It's like, and God, it's just, but you see it and you experience it. And when you experience it yourself, when you go somewhere and somebody's, trying to sell you something, and you go, "Wow, why on earth would anybody ever teach you to do, doesn't your manager, whomever owns this place, want to be more successful?"
Right.
I was at the Range I was at the Range Rover dealership, and of course, probably a bad example because people want Range Rovers, and they don't care what they cost. They just want them, and so they're easy to sell, I think. But as they're getting service, and so, you can either get a loaner car or wait around. And I thought, well, the image quiet in here. It's like a morgue in here. I could just go over here and get some work done. I don't have to get a loaner car and go somewhere else. And so there's this, so if you look up in the greatest salesman of the world, Joe Girard is the guy's name in the Guinness Book of World Records for the greatest number of cars ever sold. He sold like 14,000 cars, and just an amazing number of cars, like 7
Mhm.
a day or some kooky number for years. It's like, how does anybody ever do that? And I'm sitting around in this morgue like place at Range Rover, and the salespeople are just, shuffling around like goofball salespeople do at car places. And
Mhm.
and so a sales manager, I could see it's a sales manager because it said that I saw the office he went in. It said sales manager, whatever it was, Vince Leroy, Lemoy, or whatever the hell his name is. And I go, hey, got a question for you. And I go, hey, have you ever heard of Joe Girard? And he goes, "Oh, the owner of the, Boston Bruins or something." Going, no, the greatest car salesman in the world, And I go, "How long you been selling cars?" "Well, I've been selling cars since I was 12, And I go, "Jesus, you look old, so that must have been a long time." Uh, and, and I go, "No, Joe Girard," and he had this system, and he goes, "Oh, that's not how it works today. It's all online now." And I thought, no wonder it's like a freaking Morgan here. What do you tell your people the only way we can get leads are online. And, and,
Mhm.
and clear, I've dealt with your salespeople. They suck, and that's why it's like a Morgan here, and why
Right.
I don't see the same sales guy they're all different all the time. Why don't people stay? And, and, and this is can you, and interestingly too, I buy cars. I've bought a lot of cars over time. And and so all of those car guys, we talked about keeping in contact with everybody, anybody you've ever
Not
met.
one.
Imagine, how many car salesmen I've met that have my name and cell phone number? I
A
don't
lot.
even, a lot, a lot. You know how many calls I've gotten like, hey, creative contact, talk about creative contact or staying in contact.
Mhm.
Zero. Never a one has anybody ever called me and go, "Oh, hey, I know I met you over at Range Rover, but I'm at Porsche now," or whatever the
Mhm.
case is, or just keeping in contact with me, like, "Oh man, we just got this new such and such in," and it
Right?
shows a grandma jumping in and peeling out and doing a donut or something. Oh my God, that's crazy. But or just keeping in contact with me for "Oh, I'm over at such and such now, and we just had this car come in. Thought you might like to, even if you don't come in, want to send a picture of it, or you know what, if come in and test drive it,
Right.
because how the aerodynamics, now that is like like on an F1 car, they have this dialed in, so the front is really tight down when you accelerate onto the
Right.
freeway. You know how like when you go from our place to that over there, and you really step on it, how the front gets up
Mhm.
when you get to about 120. It doesn't do that. It sticks, man. It's the craziest thing. I've
Right.
never seen it before. But anyway, just want to touch base because I thought you'd be interested. Have a great day. You know, in an email, nobody, no, not one has ever done that. But Joe Girard's system is he kept in contact with everybody. He didn't have
Right.
anything electronic. He was back in the olden days, but he had like 90 Rolodexes, and he just keep going through them, and people would
Right.
recommend him. He'd call him up, go, "Hey, we got the new blah blah blah," and calling up guys who order pickup trucks and tell them they've got a red
Right.
Corvette. You got to come to drive this thing. It is so cool. I know you don't want one. And the farmer leaves with the red Corvette and it's an extra truck. It's just
Yeah. Yeah.
it's things can be so fun and freestyle and cool, uh, or you can do it the old fashioned way and have your script and your overcoming objection cards, and just miss. It's just so easy to miss what's possible and free and fun by doing it how everybody's done it for years and years and years. That didn't work well then, but you can teach it to the least common
Right.
denominator. You can teach a
That's
chimp,
what it is. Yeah. The least common
hey,
denominator. Yep. Yep.
yeah. But if you want
And
to
that's
be
the thing about
free,
sales, though. That's the thing about sales. There's that I have people go, "Yeah, I'm in sales," and I go, "Oh, okay. Are you a good salesperson?" Because there's plenty of bad ones out there, and we see them. And I thought that was a great example. I've bought multiple vehicles from the same car dealership, and I've had a different salesperson each time. I don't even go in and look for my old salesperson. I'm like, if you can't stay in contact with me, when I walk in the door, whomever I see is going to be my salesperson on this purchase. Isn't that
uh-huh,
missed opportunity? It's like, dude, I
yeah,
bought 2 cars from the Range Rover dealership and different sales guy every time.
hmm,
It's like, I don't
yeah,
know. Maybe those Range Rover sales guys make just so much money. They don't need to worry about selling
yeah. They
multiple
retire
cars
after
to
a
the
month.
same guy. Yeah, right. I don't know, but we're lay downs. We know what we want. We walk in. Just sell me.
Yeah.
All you
Right.
got to
I'm
do
just
is
buying. I'm here to buy. You know,
it's
you know,
crazy.
I'm here to order one.
Right.
But I guess, maybe it's not challenging enough. But God, can you imagine? Can you imagine how the amount of volume you could do in so many things if you just, you know, understand your craft, understand, because you're dealing with people. So,
Right.
it's not so much, you know, people get caught up in the product and they don't understand the buyer of the product is somebody with a messed up psyche like me.
Right.
You know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
I know that.
you have to understand. You don't treat me like you treat some, and not that I'm anything unique, but everybody is unique, right?
Right.
And so if you understand that you're dealing with people, people are as much your product is more so your product than your product. They're the ones that are saying yes or no to whatever it is you're selling. So it's really understanding how to unlock people more so than pitching some product.
Mhm.
And that almost never comes with,
That's perfectly put. Unlocking people instead of pitching product. Unlocking them. That's really what it is unlocking them to feel comfortable enough to buy from you. That's
right.
pretty good words to describe that.
Well, if those are good words, I'm not saying anymore, man. I don't want to dilute that.
Stop now. Stop.